Hello and welcome to our second lecture of the lecture series on climate protection. So welcome to the audience in the lecture hall and welcome to the people connected online. So today we have two guests, Sarah and Lorenzo. We'll have a presentation today about the Green Office, the Student Office of Sustainability, which exists now since May 2021 and has already an award, award-winning Organization Sustainability Award in June 2020. And after the presentation of the Green Office, they will show us what Green Office is actually and what it's all about, what they are doing. And maybe also for the other universities, it will be interesting because Green Office is not only an office in Innsbruck, but it's a movement in general. So maybe interesting connections to other universities might be interesting. And Lorenzo Rieg will talk about the CO2 emissions of the University of Innsbruck today. Lorenzo Rieg is the sustainability coordinator of the University of Innsbruck and who is interested in the presentation from Wolfgang Streicher. He had a presentation in 21 in December, and this is recorded on our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, it's in German, but for all the German-speaking audience, it might be interesting to watch the YouTube channel. Our next lecture will be from Stefan Tischler about the role of spatial planning in the climate change on the example of traffic. So yeah, welcome Sarah for the presentation of the Green Office. So the floor is yours.
Thank you for your introduction. I'm Sarah and I'm actually studying geography, so I'm still a student, but I'm also working at the Green Office, which is a student office for sustainability. And today I want to give you a little overview about the Green Office, and maybe we can catch up later if you're interested in working with us or working at the project. All right. Today, first I will introduce you our team, and as Rainer already said, what is a Green Office? I will talk to you about that as well. Then we will get to know our mission and vision. So what do we actually want as a Green Office? What do we want the university to do? And our goals. How do we want to achieve our mission and vision? And then I will give you a little overview about the past events and what we have already done and on our upcoming events as well. And at the end, you will get QR codes if you want to get in touch with us, so you don't have to write everything down. So here you can see our team. You can see Lara. Lara is also a geography student. She's kind of like the coordinator of the Green Office right now, and she's the one connecting to all the people. So it's really important that that we have her because she knows everybody at university, I would say. Then we have Greta. Greta is the one who is taking care of the public relations. So she's doing all the social media, she's doing the website, she's writing the newsletter, all the emails that you get there from Greta. Then we have George. George is our project manager, I would say. And then there's me. I'm the one taking care of all the greenies. Greenies are the ones, like our students, that are voluntarily working with us at the Green Office. And I'm also trying to change things at the infrastructure of the university, actually, but it's kind of difficult. So what is a Green Office? Actually, our Green Office is just one Green Office of a big movement, as you already said. The Green Office movement started in the Netherlands, and it's about offices at universities that are student-led, so students organize it. And yeah, it's about organizing projects and about making a change at the university and making the university more sustainable. There are different, like the green offices are different contact points, and we try to inform people about different topics on sustainability. And we are also trying to connect people. So for example, if you want to do a project in a different, in a certain area, we can try to see if we know somebody who can support you. And we can support you as well. For example, if you want to do a little lecture, and we can just try to see if there's a room like this free available, and we can try to get people to support you as well. And so this is what we're actually doing. And we're also working together with different initiatives. For example, Inui, I don't know if you've already heard of it, but it's pretty cool. You should check it out. Inui, it's on Instagram and the homepage everywhere. And also Fridays for Future, so not only initiatives at the university, but also a little wider. So we're also working together with the city and yeah, initiatives like this. And yeah, so all in all, you could say that the Green Office is right in between the students and the university members and the university itself. So we're right in between, and we want to connect all these three positions. So as I already said, it's like just one green office of many. So here you can see the dots. All these cities have different have green offices, and we're actually the only one in Austria right now. But it's also one of our goals to implement more green offices in Austria and in other universities. So yeah, we're also trying to get in touch with other universities and see how we can implement a green office there, but it's like a pretty big step, so not too easy, but we're working on it. So what do we, like our green office, actually want? We want to inspire, empower, and act to advance sustainable development at the University of Innsbruck. That's like our mission. And our vision, so to be even more big, we want to make, or we want to have a sustainable university. We want the university to always choose the most sustainable option that there is in every decision that they're making. And yeah, kind of move the university with all the students, with all the staff members towards a social ecological transformation. That's basically what we're saying in our vision. Then we decided to kind of work with goals, because it's pretty difficult to just say, okay, that's our mission, and then just work on it. So we said, okay, we need goals. And this year we have kind of different goals than last year, because we already reached some goals, and some goals needed to be adapted. And I will just go over them in a really quick thing. So first of all, we want to communicate sustainable development as an opportunity. So it's not seen as a burden, but as an opportunity that could be fun. We want to implement our own projects and events in the field of sustainability, so all different spectra, I don't know how to say it, of sustainability. We also want to make sustainable projects that are already at the university. We want to make them visible, and we want to support them as good as we can. We want to motivate students to engage in the field of sustainability. So if you're motivated and you want to do something about like making our university more sustainable, you can come to us, and we can together look for a project or something that we can work at. Yeah, we want to establish the Green Office as a point of contact and make it better known. That's why I'm here, actually. Yeah, next, we want to gain an overview and insight into our university processes and structures, which is not too easy, but it's really important to know how the university works in order to make a change at university. We need to do networking with university and external partners. As I already said, we're working together with the city of Innsbruck and different partners. Yeah, then we want to initiate structural change for a more sustainable university, and also looking at the education part or teaching part and make this more sustainable, or make sustainability a bigger issue in all of the subjects, not only in the geography subject. Yeah. And at the end, we want to design the university as a more attractive meeting place, so that people actually like to come here and get to know other people and get in exchange with each other, and that really good ideas are created here at university. So that's our 10 goals. And how do we do this? So in the past year, we had many. So I'll give you a little overview. So at the first picture on the left-hand side, you can see a clothing swap, plant swap, and also idea swap. And we were kind of also exchanging wishes. So we had clothing and we had plants, and we also had boxes where students could write their wishes on a little piece of paper and then put it in a box. And all these wishes were collected by us, and then we gave it to Lorenzo. So that's and like connection between students and the university actually. Then March was our big month of food. So we were looking at our food and where it comes from, and what's the what's the problem with most of the food that we're consuming, not in a healthy or health issue way, but more in a sustainability way, of course. So we were looking at alternatives. For example, in the picture in the middle, you can see people in a garden, and there was a cycling group. So we collected, or we gathered as a group of students, and then we did a cycling tour right around Innsbruck, and we were looking at all the different urban gardening spots that there are in Innsbruck. I don't know if you know any in Innsbruck. Do you know an urban gardening spot? Like where you can just go and then harvest something? You know a spot? Yeah, exactly. So at the campus, at the main campus, like Gaibi campus in city, there are these little squares, and in these squares there are plants, and you can just feel free to harvest anything. Like right now, I don't know if there's anything, but in summer there were berries, and it's pretty cool. And then we also did it. We were visiting the Speis von Morgen. It's an alternative to the regular supermarket, which is pretty cool. And we made pancakes there, and they're focusing on selling only regional and biological products. And yeah, it's a pretty cool system. So we were visiting that, and we had a trash box. So like at the sill at the river, we were collecting trash, and then we gave it to IKB. Yeah. Like, you know, bio or organic. Oh, thank you. Yeah, organic products. Sorry, that's the better word. And then this is about last week and this week. Actually, we also had a clothing swap again, and then we had a bicycle repair station, which will be held every first Monday each month. Actually, so if you have a bicycle that's not working right, you can come to our next bicycle station. And it's more about not that some of us repair your bike, but we do it together. So that we so if you don't know how to like get your brakes done, we can teach you, and then next time you know yourself. And yesterday we had a little event, which was pretty cool. Lorenzo was there as well, and he was presenting the CO2 emission report, and we were discussing about how sustainable the university is. Yeah.
So I'm just curious if we want to repair the bike, is it like is that a fee, or is it do they do it for free?
At the bicycle repair,
Yes.
So yes, you have to pay for the materials. So if you need, for example, a new lamp, you have to pay the lamp, but there will be material available there. You just have to pay it for it. And then you can tip the person who is doing it, but you don't have to pay the person who's doing it. You can leave a tip if you want.
But we do have to buy the material.
Yes, you have to buy the materials because we have to buy it and then we have to sell it again because we don't like just have money. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's about the events that we've already done, just like a little overview. And our upcoming events, actually tomorrow evening, we're having a regulars table. That's the name that I found at the translator. So we're just gathering at Unicafe. It's the yellow building next to the main campus, like between campus Gaivi and Klinik. And yeah, we're just gathering there and it's about exchanging our views on sustainability, climate change, climate anxiety, everything around that. We just want to meet up and like give people a place where they can exchange their ideas. Yeah.
I mean, for the November, the events around social justice and sustainability, will they be held in English or in German?
Mostly in German. Like if you're at the regulars table and there are more people interested in an English version, we can just do both. I would say it's easy. And we can, like, I think many people speak English here in Innsbruck. So you'll definitely find people who speak English. But most of our events are actually in German because in the past year, we just saw that most people who come to our events, or basically all people who come to our events, speak German. So that's why we did it in German. But if you maybe write us before that you want to participate and that you don't speak German, then we can look for a solution. So at November 6th, we will have a trash walk again. And on November 7th, we have the bike repair session again. And the whole November, there will be events around social justice and sustainability. So we have, for example, workshops from queer people in Innsbruck at the university and workshops about racism and workshops about sexism at university. So yeah, topics like that, which is really important as well. And if you want to get in touch with us, or if you don't want to miss any of our events, you can just scan this QR code or follow us on Instagram or follow us on Facebook if you still use Facebook, I don't know. And you can also check it out on the homepage. We have a website. If you type in Korean office UIBK, then you will find it. And yeah, you can always get in touch with us. You're still scanning? Okay. And yeah, so all our events will be published on Instagram and also via newsletter and on our website if you don't want to miss anything. Thank you for your attention, and I would love to get in touch with you. So if you have any questions now online or here in this room, please feel free to ask me any questions.
What's your name on Facebook because the QR code didn't work?
It didn't work? It's the same. So it's also greenoffice.uibk. So you will find it if you type in Green Office and then University Innsbruck or UIBK.
So for the online people, if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat or open your mic. Best is if you write a short message in the chat, then we can I will repeat the question and.
We have one question here.
Oh, yeah. But we can use the microphone. It's easier for
Just wanted to ask in second greens, so volunteer talking, how many are future
Yeah. Yeah, good question. So it's the four of us who are in the main team, and we're like actually working here at the university. And then there are the greenies, and greenies, I would say they're just students who want to participate in maybe one or maybe two projects. And last year we were about 20 greenies, I would say, and they were separated into groups because, like, at first we all gathered in one room, and then we were talking about, okay, what projects do you want to work on? What's your interest? And then they formed little groups. For example, the trash walk is one greenie group, and the bicycle station is also a greenie initiative. And then we have the booklet, which was created by the greenies, which is now online on our website. It's about how to be sustainable in Innsbruck. And then there's a lecture group. And this year we want to kind of switch it up and first gather at all these round tables, or what did I say? Yeah, at the Stammtisch. We want to meet everybody there, and then we will talk about, like, if one person is interested in working at a project, then you can talk to us, and then we will get you in touch with all the people who are already working in the groups, just so the groups don't get like too big or too messy. And if you have an idea for like an own project, you can also just come to us, and then we will set you up. We will give you like a little form where you have to fill out your idea. It's not complicated. Just like write in, my idea is, and I need, I don't know, 5 people to work with, and then we can set you up. And then you're a greenie as well, and yeah, then you can work on your project, and we will support you, or try to support you.
Then one question from my side. How do you exchange information between the networks? So are you in regular contact with the other green offices all over Europe? Is there some kind of regular meeting, or how does it work?
Yeah, so the Green Office movement, they're pretty active actually, and they're having workshops and lectures and meetings. And Lara, the one in the middle, that's not me, she's the one taking care of the connection and exchange with the Green Office movement. And yeah, she's participating in some workshops and keep in touch with the Green Office movement by email. And yeah, so everything is online right now. That maybe in the future they will have sessions in live. We'll see.
Maybe some of you have seen the actions was also from Green Office on the Aktionstag in the Uni, the schools coming here, and they had a nice test about choosing food and thinking how much CO2 emission is embedded in the different kind of food. So it was interesting. So maybe you can explain a little bit more. It was
yeah, so we're trying to communicate like these difficult topics, like how much CO2 is behind my meat that I'm eating, or whatever, or how much water is used for producing 1 kilogram of meat. So we're trying to break these things down as a so we made a little game, and these are like this where you buy your milk in. We refilled these boxes with water, and every box was a different weight, and the weight was calculated that it was representing the CO2 emissions per kilogram of this product. So we had one box, there was like a cow on it, representing meat, and it was pretty heavy. And then there was a box next to it representing cheese, and it was not as heavy, but still kind of heavy, because you need milk for the cheese and you need the cow for the cheese, and there's a lot of CO2 emissions and methane used for cheese. So all these all these steps that are needed for creating cheese were calculated with it. And then there was, for example, an apple also represented by a box, and it was super light because there's almost none CO2 produced by eating an apple or by producing an apple. Yeah. So we had this little game about CO2 emissions, and then we also had a game where it was about how much water is behind my product. So we had pictures of meat and of rice and of an apple again. And then there were these little stones, and each stone was representing one bathtub. And then they had to put these stones on the different pictures and decide what they think, how much water or how many bathtubs are used for producing 1 kilogram of this product. So yeah, that the relations are more easy to understand, because if I tell you how much water you need to, or how much water is used for 1 kilogram of rice, if I just tell you the number, you won't remember, I guess. Yeah. So we're trying to do it with games.
Yeah, it was a really brilliant idea. I think so. If you are more interested in this, maybe you can watch the video from the YouTube channel from last year. There was a presentation about this app, which is called A Good Day, the 100 Way. And it does a similar thing as you did with the weight. It said the CO2 emissions related to 100 point value which is sustainable, and all number of points higher than 100 is not sustainable. So, and you can calculate your number of points and can make changes and so on. It's like a game as you did in the form of an app, and it's really also from a scientific point of view. It took a long time to calculate all these databases behind it, because all parts of your life are included. So food is included, but also traffic and living, everything is included. So you really can calculate exactly the number of points in.
This article on the show how planets your like the way you are living your life on planets.
In fact, it's calculated on CO2 emission, but we need a really small value, which is counted to be sustainable on a mean value for all people. So if it's higher, we will not reach the 1.5 degree centigrade value. A good day, the 100 way, it's in German. Guter Tag hat 100 Punkte. And if you Google that, then you'll find the homepage and the download for the app. It's really interesting. It's in English and several languages already. And the interesting thing is it's different in each country. So if you are from Austria, you have a different starting level than if you're from Germany or Switzerland or whatever. So it's really locally based.
Interesting.
Other questions? In the chat, there's nothing. So feel free to ask questions. You also can open the mic if you have any questions. Oh.
I'll also stay here, so if you have questions later, you can just enter.
Okay, if no further questions, then Lorenzo will talk about the CO2 emissions of the university. Yeah, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Rainer, and hi everyone. I'm Lorenzo, and as Rainer said, I'm the sustainability coordinator of the University of Innsbruck. So I'm in the Vice Rectorate for Infrastructure, and I'm working on making the University of Innsbruck more sustainable. First of all, I'm sorry because my slides are in German. Like I was invited in the last minute, and I didn't have the time to change them to English. So I will talk maybe a bit more on what's written on the slides than usual, but we will manage. So I will talk about the CO2 balance of the University of Innsbruck, which we calculated for the first time for 2019. It's also the one I'm going to present because the year 2020 and 2021, they are of course influenced by COVID quite a lot. I mean, the university was closed for longer stretches. There was no traveling, or nearly no traveling, and so on. So let's say for a typical year, 2019 is much more suitable. Maybe to start, like, do you know what the CO2 balance is or means? Probably you have at least some idea. But if I ask you, like, so the University of Innsbruck has like 28,000 students, more or less, so it's quite some, and more than 5,000 staff. So it's like a pretty big company, and if you say that the students are also quite a lot, and of course we are trying to account for emissions. We cannot account for all the emissions because I probably click. Okay.
Cited.
Yeah. So we are not accounting for really all emissions because some things is really super hard. For example, like if we buy like big gear for research, I might not even know if it would be like, I don't know, it's calculated. But we like try to include the other things, like even traveling, people commuting to university, students coming to university, I don't know, stuff we buy like computers, projectors, phones, and so on. And of course, also the energy we are using. And so my question is, do you have any kind of idea how much CO2 a university emits, or the university, or if this is comparable to, I don't know, other companies, or I don't know, like how many households would be needed, like average households in Austria, to emit the emissions of the university? I don't know if you're like very familiar with the tons or so, but I mean, maybe you have an idea on how many households emit the same amount of emissions than the university. Yeah, it's clear that you don't know it, but just it's also interesting for me to see or to get a feeling how much you know about this. Yeah, I mean, what I also have to say, like for those emissions or for those calculations I'm going to present, we use like all the official emission factors, which are calculated annually by our environmental agency, like the government environmental agency. And but of course there are some insecurities. For example, for the business travel of the employees, and as you probably can guess, scientists travel quite a bit. They go to conferences, they go to exchange, some go to do field work on other continents. There's quite some travel. And of course, we know that, for example, someone went to a conference in New York, and that he, of course, took the plane. But what I don't know is if he took the plane, let's say, from Munich and had a direct flight, or if he took the plane from Innsbruck to Frankfurt and then to New York. So I have to average this a bit. And there are some other like smaller things where we don't exactly know. So it's not a super precise thing. It's not a very precise science, but I think it's quite good, and it's as good as we can do it, and it's quite sensible balance. What maybe are some key points in the beginning, so that our main issue is this gas we use for heating. It's more than 40% of our emissions is from heating our buildings with gas. Most of the university buildings are heated with gas, not all of them. I mean, this is of course pretty bad also, especially in the current political situation, but it's also quite hard to change. Then the university is buying like certified green energy, so the electricity, and for more than 5 years we've been buying green energy, and this actually reduces the footprint by quite a lot. Because even though Austria, even in, let's say, normal energy mix is relatively green compared to other countries, for example in Eastern Europe, it still has a very big effect. The buying of green energy saves about 6,000 tons of CO2 per year. And another thing, which is also a topic which will probably stay with us for a long time, is the emissions from long-haul flights. We are really trying to reduce traveling or flying, not necessarily traveling, but yeah, the long-haul flights, they're just very hard to replace by other means of traveling. Yeah, here you can already see the results of the 2019 CO2 balance. So the total balance, it's like more than 14 tons of CO2 emissions, which is quite a lot. No? So I have like in the top right, doesn't matter, you can see the small red person, like that should be your average Austrian, which has in 2019 had a carbon footprint of 9 tons CO2 equivalent per year. I mean, you can calculate that the university emits more CO2 emissions than 1,000 or 1,500 Austrians. Also, like just to maybe also make those kind of tons more tangible, like a flight from Innsbruck to New York, when you fly from Innsbruck to Frankfurt and then from Frankfurt to New York and back, that's about 5.5 tons of CO2 equivalent. So already with the you can also see that a flight to New York and back, it's already more than half than the average footprint of the average person in Austria. So that also just shows that flying is really like a pretty big part usually of the CO2 emissions of a person or an institution, even if you maybe don't fly that much. Yeah, as you can also see, the three like bars are in the pie chart. The biggest part of our emissions is from energy. I mean, I already told you that a large part is from gas. Then the second big part is from mobility, meaning business travel, people commuting to universities, students going on an exchange, and so on. And then a relatively small part is on the materials we use. So computers, paper for printing, and other things. Yeah. So to show you a bit more in detail how this looks, the emissions in the different categories. That's where we have really a lot of emissions. Over 6,000 tons. The whole campus tended here is by natural gas. The whole social is by natural gas, and also some of the other buildings like the Center. What we really see or what might be surprising. I hope you see that the electric energy, that's the first electricity, it's super low, even though we use a lot, really a lot, not just for lights, projectors, and computers, but also for research. Laboratories use a lot. But that's the effect of the.
Sorry for that, I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I will just continue, right?
Yes.
And that you can maybe work on. Also, we can about how the slides. So another big part is the business travel. This is actually our second biggest part. So that's researchers and start traveling for conferences like this. And interestingly enough, the third biggest part of the emissions is the student exchange. So students going abroad. I mean, there we have actually not a very data situation because we do not know if the student goes for exchange. Let's say Sweden, I don't know how we actually go there.
So do you follow the business travel? The one that the name, the title was business travel?
Yeah. It's the second highest.
Yeah.
For this size in Germany.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then the next one is exchanges. Yeah. And I think I forgot to use my information of electricity and energy because you buy a certified energy. More expensive, it's quite a bit more expensive. But that saves about, as I said, 6,000 tons. The green energy, so we buy energy which is certified wind, solar, or it has like a much lower. Well, not necessarily local, it's a balance. So the electricity, like, it's in the grid, like you don't actually know where it comes from. But we buy like not only, let's say, that would take quite a bit, but it's not only, let's say, some percentage is or it's certified, a certain percentage has to be from you, not just from very old banks or unions, but like a certain part has to be from new ones, so that it's really clear that we are aiming more to strengthen renewable energies. I mean, as you know, in Terra we have a lot of power, and water power is very effective. So it's quite good. And another part, which is then already quite a bit behind, is the, like as I said, the exchange students and also the commuting of employees. So, I mean, you know, Innsbruck, it's not a very big city, so quite many people commute by bike, quite some others by public transport. So we have, let's say, already quite a good basis, but still, people also commute by car. Students, very little actually, but employees, depending on where they live, also changed a bit during the season. There are more people in summer coming by car or walking. In winter, it's more public transport cars.
Sorry, I didn't manage to get the beamer ready. So most of you have laptops with you. If you log in into the GoToMeeting, then you can see the slides on the screen. Maybe it's good. Most of you have laptops with you. Sorry for that. I don't know what's happening. Maybe there's some technical problem. I'll try to fix it. But yeah, you can read it on the screen and the students on there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Sorry for that. Yeah.
Because I think. So I think, does everyone have the lead? I guess. Yes. Okay. Great. So let me know if there is something not working. Okay. So I see a question in the chat on how I'm calculating the emissions from student exchanges, and yeah, it's true. This is difficult, no, because I actually do it in a way that I kind of guess if people are flying or taking a train or taking, I don't know. For example, if quite many of the exchange students, they go abroad pretty far. So if someone goes to the US or to Japan or to New Zealand, I mean, it's quite clear that they are flying, no? So I kind of take an estimate of the flight. Like, it's not very precise. Then if someone goes to, I don't know, Venice, then I assume he's most likely taking a train. And I'm not assuming that he's flying to Venice from here. Of course, I know that it might happen that this person is actually flying there because he was in Berlin before. But like, this would be like a big effort to estimate this. I mean, and on the follow-up question, of course, it's hard to estimate those things, but quite many of them are not estimations. And also, like, some of the estimations, they work really well. For example, for the commuting, employees and students, we do surveys. Also, we poll our employees, we poll our students, and ask them, how do you come to university? How often are you coming? How far is your distance? Are you coming by bike? Are you coming by car? So that's actually, I would say, quite a proven method, and it works quite well. I mean, we don't do this every year. We do it every 3-4 years. This is 2019. The questionnaire was done in 2017. So this might actually change quite a bit during COVID, because mobility changed. There's more distance learning. There's now also more, let's say, home office for the employees. But I would say in general, this works pretty well, the estimating this. For the consumption of energy, I mean, we know, we pay for the energy, we pay per amount of energy used. So I would also say this is relatively precise. I mean, for the cars, our employees are driving, the cars owned by university. I mean, you just check how many kilometers they were running. So, I mean, if also maybe to talk about the smaller points you can see here. On the right, there is, for example, papier, which means paper. It's quite low. The university uses a lot of paper still, probably like 40 tons a year, maybe 35, right? I would have to check, but it's quite a lot of paper. I mean, this is like paper for printing, but also like, you know, hygienic paper and so on. And I mean, we know it since we buy it. Maybe like it's a couple of kilos of, but on the scales, it's actually, I would say, a pretty good estimation, with maybe the exception of that students exchange and the business travel, where I don't know if people had a stopover or not. Yeah, to maybe finish this slide, we have some smaller points, like the one which says Pendeln Studierende in German. That means the commute of the students. So there are quite little emissions, even though we have so many students. Then Fernwärme, that's district heating. We have it at the campus Inrhein or at the Gaivi. Those buildings are heated by district heating. It's much more environmental friendly than heating them with gas. We have a little bit of biomass. That's actually one building. There's no research or teaching. It's a depot for books and things like that. We have actually very little oil. That's Heizöl, means oil. But since that has such a big impact on has such a high emission per, I don't know, liter, it's quite a bit. And then all the way to the right, you can see it's called Kältemittel. That's a cooling agent or refrigerant in English. This is also listed, even though we don't use very much, but because it has such super high emission factors. So they are improving over time. So they were much worse 10, 15 years ago. Probably Rainer knows much more about it than me, but they can easily have, I don't know, 1 kilo of refrigerant can have like CO2 emission equivalent of 1,000 kilos CO2. So it's really, so if we build a new building like we're doing now at the campus Inrhein, usually like we have to account for, I don't know, 150, 200 kilos of refrigerant. That's why it's in there. Also, see, another question is, why aren't the CO2 emissions of the construction industry or listed? That's a good question. My answer is that's because we don't own our buildings. That's something which many people do not know, but the university, we rent all our buildings. So like we rent them basically from the government. There's another government company which builds those buildings. So since we don't own them and we don't build them, they would need to be in the carbon balance of that company. Also, on the other hand, it would be quite a lot of work to calculate them. And it's, I mean, you have to keep that in mind. I should have mentioned that in the beginning that, I mean, we use the buildings, so we account for the heating, for the electricity, facility management, and so on. But we don't own them. Since we pay for them, that's how a balance usually works. Since we pay for the use of the buildings, like the owner will have to account for them. But I agree with the question. I mean, emissions from buildings are quite high, especially the concrete used in buildings, steel used in buildings, plastic used in buildings, has quite high emissions. What I think, at least in my view, as important is the quality of the buildings. And I don't want to digress too far, but I mean, one reason why we're using so much, especially gas for heating, is that many of our buildings are old. They're not very well isolated. And I mean, the buildings you build now, they will be here for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. So if they're not well isolated, you're going to heat them for a long time. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I mean, we have to get rid of all that gas here, no? And if we want to have any chance of achieving the goals which you know, even FCC proposed, which the countries accepted, which Austria said. I mean, Austria wants to be carbon neutral by 2040. So I mean, we are not like a steel mill or a concrete factory. We're a university, so this has to go to zero, which means we have to change to other forms of energy. The buildings have to be improved so that we actually need zero or close to zero heating, or much less heating for them. And then again, like that's not really my topic, but for example, if you look at the campus here, you can see the two higher buildings, like the one for technical sciences, and on the other hand, where physics and biology are located. And they were built the same way. So that the one over there, it's quite old, looking quite old, and the other one has been refurbished 6-7 years ago. And this is like up to a really good standard. And of course, this would have to happen for all the buildings. Yeah, but so I'm not Rainer would be the expert for buildings, so I'm not gonna continue with that. But it's a very good question, and I also agree that it's underrepresented in the whole climate change sustainability discussions, like the buildings, and especially the older building stock. Like the newer buildings, it's also underrepresented, but the older buildings, of which there are many around, they are not represented as much as they should. Yeah, so there is a bit more on the energy use. There you can see that really the gas, even though let's say it doesn't have as high an emission factor as, for example, oil, it's really taking up the biggest part of our emissions. The district heating is much lower. We also don't use as much. Then I have to say that, for example, if you compare this to other cities, like our district heating is pretty good because it uses some biomass, it uses some like waste heat from industry, and only about half of it is powered by gas. Yeah, then maybe that's also interesting, since we've been talking about the traveling, just to show the influence of the emissions factor. So on the one side, on the left diagram, you have the CO2 equivalent of the different types of travel. So the Langstreckenflug, the biggest part, that's like long distance flights. They have a bit lower emission factor than short distance flights because the flight period is longer, and most emissions are created while the plane starts. And on the right side, you have the kilometers traveled. So there you can see that, for example, the train, the green slice, which is actually responsible for a lot of the kilometers, it has basically no emissions, because it's also mainly in Austria, where it's powered by renewable energy. So that only makes up 1% of our emissions from traveling, even though it's like, I don't know, not really a fourth, but quite a bit of kilometers traveled. So the train is super environmental friendly, no surprise there. What I find interesting is that the short distance flying, that's the Kurzstreckenflug, even though it's quite few kilometers, and it's defined, just to say this also, flights 750 kilometers and less, they make up for quite some of the emissions. And this is also why I think it's quite important to reduce them. It's really not, in my opinion, not necessary to fly for those distances. Of course, it might be more convenient, but you could use the train. Which is also why last year the university introduced a new travel policy, which, I mean, it doesn't really ban the flights, but it will not cover your costs anymore if you take flights to destinations which you can reach comfortably by train in about, yeah, not in about, but in 6.5 hours. So all the flights within Austria, flights to Switzerland, southern Germany, northern Italy, basically you have to go by train or cover the costs yourself. And I think this will lead to quite a bit of a reduction. Of course, there are flights to some destinations which will still happen, but I think this is a good way to reduce emissions. With the cars, you can do something. I think that the bigger issue is the long distance flying, where I also don't see how this will technologically change soon. I guess the emissions will stay with us for quite a while. Yeah, the same here is for the commuting of the employees. Again, like you can see, yeah, PKW, that's like traveling by cars, and you can see it's only like about a third or not very many of the kilometers on the right side, but it's over 80% of the emissions from commuting. So what we have here is in the darker green, it's the ÖV mix. That's like a mix of public transport, because many people come, let's say, first by train, then by bus, or we also have the tram in Innsbruck. And we didn't ask like for, you know, precise how exactly do you travel. That might also vary. So we have a mixed emission factor, and people which only use the train are fewer. They have another emission factor. Again, shows that like the train is super environmental friendly, or the public transport, and it can help a lot also to reduce your personal footprint. Yeah, then I'm coming nearer to the end. So that's the materials we are using. I mean, again, like there are some, like, let's say, special things, especially in laboratories, which are not accounted for. And that's, in my opinion, a bit of a gap in this balance, because as we all know, chemicals can also have quite impact. Why we are not doing this is basically because we are doing that according to a certain system which has been agreed on by the universities in Austria. So, I mean, at the moment, I think 6 or 7 of the Austrian universities are calculating and kind of publicly showing their balance, and they're all using that, let's say, framework. In my opinion, the chemicals should be included, but they're not included. So what we have here is, by a largest part, IT materials, projectors, phones, notebooks, and so on. Yeah, and then another part is paper, as I said, and also the refrigerants. Those tend to vary quite a bit over the years, because not all the time new things are installed, and then we account them in the year which they are bought. And that's maybe also like also for the IT materials, like they're all accounted for in the year we are buying them, so there's no like life cycle accounting for them in the balance. Yeah, what's going to change? What are we thinking that's going, or what I am in the end thinking what's going to change? So the green energy has like a really big impact on our footprint, but it's getting more and more expensive. But on the one hand, it's because it's the easiest way to reduce your footprint as a private person or as an organization. You pay a bit more and you reduce it by quite a lot. Makes total sense. The question is, how far can the price increase for that to still be justified? No, the price is increasing. It's not decreasing. Yeah. But energy prices in general have been risen like crazy due to the war in Ukraine, or the problems with gas supply in Europe. As you probably know, especially in Germany, there a lot of power is produced by burning gas in plants, in gas plants, and so with the current difficult supply situation, like, I mean, it's actually they've been risen so much that it's a problem for us at the university, because we use a lot of energy, and we buy it. It's bought for us by another company, usually a year in advance. And so we still have like, we're using energy which has been bought last year's prices, but starting January, the prices will rise like quite a lot for all energy. But also the gap between the, let's say, certified green energy and the normal energy from our Austrian mix. No, in Austria it's not as much gas, but of course there's some gas in it. There's even like some probably oil in it. I don't know. I mean, they've been discussing to reopen a coal plant, which they didn't do in Austria. So it's still, let's say, good in international comparison, but maybe not as good as one would think. But I don't have it like in my mind how exactly the Austrian mix is at the moment. But the point I was making is that the price difference between the green energy, the certified one, and the normal energy is also increasing. And that's of course because at the moment, one thing, more and more people, organizations want to buy the certified green energy because they want to be more sustainable. They want to, and it's limited in supply. There's only so much. And the other point is that in some ways, green energy is now maybe seen as a more reliable part because the energy produced from gas, and you probably also heard that there are big problems with the atomic energy in France at the moment or during the last month due to various reasons. So a couple of years ago, like especially solar and wind power, they were seen as, let's say, more unreliable. And maybe that's also changing now because actually like the supply of gas has become unreliable as well. And so while I, as like someone working on sustainability and it's terrible what's happened, but on the other hand, I think it's good to actually have the prices on energy increase because it will really make people think and force people to save energy. And this would have been super important years ago. Didn't happen as much as would have been great. So now I think quite many things are happening. Yeah. Yeah. The question, the answer is I don't know. We don't know what we're going to pay for energy next year. This year. For this year, it's quite a difference. I think it's more than 1 million euros. I think it's more than 1 million euros.
No, I'm asking about the difference in price of gas. We have problems with it. 100 euros and renewable energy prices. Which one is more beneficial to the bank account?
Beneficial to what, right?
Like to your university, the you need energy. What is more beneficial in terms of economics?
Well, I mean, for this year, let's say normal energy is cheaper. So if you look purely at economics, then it's cheaper. It's always been cheaper the last years. Like so the. No, I mean the prices are increasing, but I would expect it also for next year to still be cheaper. Yes, yes. But I mean that again, like we have to talk about it next year because also like most of the electricity is not like paid the moment you buy it. It's quite often pre-bought, like for like I don't know for the energy we are using now. Like a part of it has been bought a year ago, a part has been bought like 1.5 years ago. Like so that's like that's like you buy, like you have a contract for future delivery. So that's why it's quite difficult to say. Anyway, I mean, in the medium to long term, we cannot use any oil and gas anymore for heating or electricity because I mean, if we do it, we're going to fail all the goals we have set for ourselves. No? Yeah, that means also like you cannot just switch. No? I mean, we cannot say, well, we just switch to district heating because at the moment that's also powered to a good part by natural gas. So this means like the buildings have to be improved. consumption of electricity has to be reduced also. Yeah, then another point, the traveling. I think that this changed quite a bit during the pandemic. I mean, I remember when I worked at the university until 2017, then I was away for a couple of years and I came back 1.5 years ago. And 2017 or 16, if we had a meeting, like I was working at the center and someone was working here, someone would always go and come to the other place. Today, I mean, usually you make a video conference, even though it's 15, 20 minutes by bike. And this will, of course, also happen with traveling. Like so many like meetings, shorter meetings, and so on, they will just happen online. So everyone knows how to operate Zoom and all the other softwares. I mean, we are live streaming this lecture. That wouldn't have happened in 2016. So this will, of course, also contribute to lowering the footprint of the University of Innsbruck and also of other organizations. Last point, that's for the commuting. This will also, I think, improve kind of. First, I think there's much more awareness now. On the other hand, like even though many people come by car, maybe because they need to come or it's just so much more practical for them, there are more and more electric cars. For this balance 2019, we assumed that there are none, which was probably not true even then. But by now, more and more people use electric cars, and they do have significantly lower emission factors. So they're probably about half of a car burning diesel or gasoline. Yeah, so that's my overview of the CO2 balance of the University of Innsbruck. I hope that's interesting for you. I'm happy to talk. I can talk about this for a long time. I'm also quite happy that there were already some questions, but I'm of course also happy to answer more questions. Yeah.
Maybe you use the mic.
You have to use the mic because I have like 5.
Yes.
You talked about the public transportation here, and the tram here is electrical. And I wanted to know, and now you said about electric vehicles, but where does the electricity come from, or not?
I mean, for the electric cars, people, I don't know. So in the normal emission factor, they use the, let's say, typical Austrian energy mix. Of course, I mean, some people might charge their cars with green energy, but I don't know. For the public transport, I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure about the EVA in Innsbruck, but I think they use green energy. I'm not 100% sure. I have to look up. For the Austrian train, the ÖBB, the Austrian train system, they use like 100% green energy as well. So that's also why, as I showed, why the emissions are so low per kilometer. If you use the train, let's say in, I don't know, Czech Republic, Poland, it still has much less emissions than a car, but it has higher emissions than a train in Austria.
About this, we have a good luck that in Austria the hydropower is such a high percentage, and if you are interested in the rating of hydropower, or gas or other electricity production, there is a free available app which is called Electricity Map, and then you can click on each of the European countries and you see immediately the percentage of each electricity production and its CO2 emissions, and also you can see the incoming and outgoing electricity. So sometimes Austria is selling electricity to the neighbor countries, and sometimes it buys from it. So in general, Austria has a high level of hydropower, but there are hours of the day where we import from Germany or France or whatever. Also, yeah, nuclear energy or other. So you can always see day by day. And the interesting thing is that you have already a high percentage of photovoltaics during bright days. So it's growing. In the last few years, the percentage was growing, yeah, but still in Austria, we import energy from other countries, and this is normally the energy for the traffic. Which is a European mix of energy in most cases.
The second thing, you as a sustainability coordinator, I want to know, are you involved in the subject that being taught here?
I'm not really teaching on, like, I'm teaching personnel. So
I'm not, but I'm asking, do you get involved in the material that's being taught here? Courses or
About the curriculum, if you're involved in the curriculum.
Courses. Not really, let's say.
Well, maybe it would be good to, if you explain about the principle of Nachhaltigkeitsbeirat. Maybe this organization has some influence on the curriculum. Yeah, maybe it's good to explain.
Yeah. So, yeah, as I said, I'm not really teaching. More like what is actually taught in the lecture is decided by the person in the lecture. So we have like this, like the freedom of teaching and research, which I think is also quite valuable. I mean, what we do, of course, try to implement sustainability in research and teaching at university, but it's not always something else, like everyone has to teach about this or that, or has to be in a certain way. We try to motivate people to integrate their teaching, even though I don't know they might whatever statistics. But that's like one thing we also think about how we involve in improvement. What I mentioned, what we have is the sustainability board, made from all faculties or students. We call this also Hochschulwissenschaft, and so they are basically our connection to this. We try to engage the faculties to them, and we also know the curricula they are only decided on by Senate, but they don't like to choose seminar they haven't changed, let's say, very often, but sometimes still are. Then what for example, you have like the minor and some bachelor's and choose as a minor. It's not, let's say, foreseen in all bachelors, but in theory, all bachelors can be for some means additional. So some can do within their own studies. And it's 30 TTS, so it's all one semester. It's fairly cool, not super cool. I also heard it's well. But I think it's quite good to have. So we have an opportunity to really study sustainability, though, let's say, in architecture or biology.
And my last question for now. We talked about green buildings and how to improve to prevent heat and cold. And you said that the university needs a lot of energy. Are you doing something about putting PV panels?
Yeah, so very, very this is different factors and more we don't believe. But so yeah, therefore, also of course would be very good to have, especially now is so expensive. What we did, I don't know the university sports, it's close to the airport. So there, they will install, I don't know, they already work. So they will cover like all the rules that are possible, all except one, because they might cover one. So they will install there. You can just say install it, the process, but then once you finish and install, I don't know if they can install the meter or they will install the meter, or you install there. Then here the campus technique will be next, but it's not ordered or approved yet. Also here, it's not possible on every roof. That's also the case in some other buildings. But also there you also refer the main part of the university. This is also yeah, the kind of related which I don't understand because you can actually learn even the wars now, but it's happening.
As Lorenzo told you, the university doesn't own the buildings, we rent it. So the buildings are owned by the so-called Bundesimmobiliengesellschaft, and they have the right to do it if they want to do it. They have the first right to do it. So if they say which this roof is interesting for photovoltaics, they can start a photovoltaic project and do it on this roof. If they don't want to do it, the university can say, okay, that's an interesting project, we like to do it. And if the Bundesimmobiliengesellschaft accepts this, it can be done. Different areas might be useful for it. The first project here on the campus will be done on the laboratory buildings over there. You've seen maybe that's a flat roof, and it was insulated this summer, and it will be covered by photovoltaics in the near future. This is a project of Bundesimmobiliengesellschaft. It's not of university, but it's done step by step, and also it's possible to use the parking areas to make some kind of shading or whatever for PV, which would be really useful in both terms, producing energy and making shading.
Yeah, like to talk to companies regarding our super expensive. Because we have to do but maybe the developer at the moment, like everyone wants to build solar power, and the companies can charge quite high prices. That's where our bodies will have procurement process, and all the companies may say, I probably will not be able to make you an offer because it's so complicated. That's also
Could you give him the mic and switch it on, please? Mm-hmm.
So I just want to add, increase the smart application. Every time we see the schedule of the public transport, we can see okay, so this mode of public transport which is up uses like how many tons of CO2. So I wonder how do they actually calculate how do they actually come up with such figures like okay this today will produce like 1 ton of CO2 and so on and so on. Thank you.
I don't know which application you refer.
The smart rider.
So, I haven't checked. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but it's based on the kilometers per hour. Let's say average
Consumption.
Consumption of the train, you might see the average amount of usage. So, and then of course also how emissions from one of our activities is solved by HDR. The emission factor we say like the average of 20 kilometers isn't that much. So if you only know, okay, you're going from to stein, then all the houses, and they can just multiply that factor.
So I think it's more like we already have a set formula. I mean, like for example, the state like they already do some experiment and they calculated that 1 kilometer of land produces of 2 tons of CO2 and on.
Exactly. So I mean, of course, if for some reason the train is super empty, the next train is super full, like that's not the calculation then showing what you do. So you always have.
So, any further questions? I don't see any in the chat, no.
I try to answer them, but I mean, also in the chat, feel free to add to your questions.
Maybe one from my side, thank you for your presentation about the paper usage in university consumption. Though, for those who are interested in this stuff, paper is really highly relying on gas. At the moment, it's a really gas-intensive production process. And we will have a lecture about these problems and how to reduce the energy consumption in the paper production. From industry, there will come somebody to to show the possibilities to reduce it. So my question in terms of the university paper used, do we have information on the embedded energy in the paper, and are there difference from the producers? So could you buy low energy paper or higher energy paper? That would be interesting. So like in the electricity, maybe in paper it's also possible.
It's not impossible, but as I said, the balance we're using the official emission factors, and there's only one for paper, like for printing paper, as far as I know. There's another like one for let's say for the paper, and those paper towels used by your hands. And, so there's and also, for example, when you mentioned was also the paper. Is the books papers. Yeah, it's papers present, for example, we have our configurations of the suppliers, different books, and so that is all there's a different emission factor for books, for example. It's not the same as for written paper, but I know that there are differences in the paper also made from, say, paper or fresh biomass. But yeah, you have to ask someone else for exactly. And also, I have to check the quality of the emissions of the paper, also transport, and so on. So it's not just the production and the material, and the transport groups where all has the paper.
Yeah, so for those who are interested, on the 23 of November, Dominique Modre will talk about pulp and paper quo vadis. And so that's especially on energy in paper production. And next time, Stefan Tischler on the 16th of November will talk about traffic. So I think we'll have interesting topics which are closely related to what we talked today. Just one one number for you to see the relationship. So you talked about 8 or 9 tons of CO2 emission per person per year, and we should come down to a value of lower than 1 ton per person per year. That's the goal. That's really ambitious, but that's what we are heading for. Yeah, so I think if there are no more questions, I would say thank you very much for coming, for your questions and discussion. Thank you for the Green Office presentation. It was really interesting, and you're invited to come to the Stammtisch, it's called, I think. And we wish to have a lot of new greenies in future. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Thank you.